Hey, what is up guys, it's Rob. Hope you're doing really good out there. So as a guitar teacher, I get two types of students regularly. The first one, the obvious one, is complete beginners, people just starting out on their guitar journey. And the second one is people who have been playing for quite a while already and hit a bit of a brick wall, got stuck in a little bit of a rut and they can't get themselves out of it. So they come to me for lessons to try and get them past this point that they've been stuck at for quite a while. And on that thought process, a lot of these people, they're trying to improve their playing in terms of their improvisation and their lead guitar playing. Maybe they've learned quite a lot of scales and patterns and they've got quite comfortable doing their thing on the guitar, but they just find themselves doing the same thing over and over again and they're not sure how to apply new techniques and new concepts to make their lead playing just go up to that next level and maybe even beyond. So that's what I thought I'd make a video about today because it's been on my mind quite a lot lately. So today I'm going to give 5 tips, 5 of my personal tips on how you can improve your lead guitar playing and especially your improvising, which means obviously playing completely on the spot, completely randomly. You don't know what you're going to do until you do it. In my opinion, that's one of the best things you can do on the guitar, the best things to learn how to be able to do, but it's also one of the hardest. This is something that I've been focusing on quite a lot in my own playing within the last couple of years, just trying to make my improvising on the guitar sound a lot more musical, a lot more melodic, and a lot more flowing especially. So if you think that you fall into that category of someone who is stuck in a little bit of a rut and wants to get better at their improvising or their lead guitar playing, or if you're a complete beginner to playing lead guitar and improvising, then I hope that this video will offer some good encouragement and advice for you. So let's get into my first tip. So tip number 1, and I'm going to get this one out of the way early, don't worry about that, is go for lessons. Have a guitar teacher, have some guitar lessons. Now, this might feel like a little bit of a step back if you've been playing guitar for maybe a few years already, you're already quite comfortable with some scales and chords and things like that. Don't worry, this isn't a step back. This isn't you having to go back to the beginning and learn everything all over again because maybe you're doing it wrong. This is not what I'm saying. One of the best things that you can do is have somebody else look at your guitar playing, have an outsider's perspective and really looking closely at what you're doing in terms of your technique, what scales you're using, how you're getting about the fretboard, the way that you're picking, the way that you're doing basically everything. When you're not thinking about that stuff, when you're not really paying attention to it, that could be part of the reason why you're not really seeing any progress. So maybe having somebody else cast their more experienced eyes on your guitar playing and really sort of getting there with a fine-tooth comb and getting into the details of what could be potentially holding you back. Don't underestimate that. That's one of the best things you can do. And if you are still thinking that maybe that would be a little bit of a step back for you, another thought process behind it is somebody who is already in shape might still want to get a personal trainer just for the motivation and just for that little bit of a push every now and again and a little bit of advice and things that you might not necessarily know about just to keep them at that certain level and maybe try and push them to the next level. It's that sort of thought process with the guitar. Think of a guitar teacher as a bit of a guitar personal trainer, if you like, the musical equivalent. That's the way that I like to think about it. So having lessons after you've already been playing for quite a while anyway isn't a step back, it's actually a really good thing. So that's just something I wanted to get out of the way early. So my first tip on how to improvise and play better is have lessons. And I'm just going to use this opportunity to say that I do teach online guitar lessons via Skype. So if anybody likes my guitar playing and thinks that I might be able to help them on a one-to-one basis, then I'll leave my contact details in the top of this description, so check that out and get in touch if you would like a guitar lesson from me. Anyway, let's get on to tip number 2. Tip, and this might feel like an incredibly obvious one, it goes without saying, but I still do need to say it, is you're going to need to know some scales, you're going to need to know some chords and maybe some different patterns around the fretboard. Also, you're going to have to be quite comfortable in terms of key, how to play in different keys on the guitar. things like switching between major and minor, things like combining major and minor, relative scales, all of this sort of stuff. And I would actually put quite a bit of importance on just scales in general at the beginning. There's other things you can do like modes, but for me, modes are just the scales but played in different ways, and maybe just variations of those scales. That's what the modes are to me anyway. So I wouldn't really think about modes just yet. I would just think about scales. And if I had to put a bit of importance on a few scales at first, the ones to mainly get comfortable with, it would be minor pentatonic, major pentatonic, major scale, minor scale, blues scale, country scale. Quite a lot there, and I understand that you might be thinking, wow, that's a lot to learn and it's going to take me ages. Yes and no. Most, if not all of these scales are just variations of each other. Notes added, notes taken away, that sort of thing. For argument's sake, if you learn the major scale and then you learn the minor scale, some of the notes are similar, some of the notes are different. So those are the main ones that you're going to have to learn at first and get to know the sounds of them and also the shapes of them as well. But let's just say you've learned the minor scale, the natural minor scale, which has 7 musical notes in it. And then you want to learn the pentatonic scale. The pentatonic scale, the minor one in this case, is exactly the same as the minor scale, just missing a couple of notes. Penta means 5, so there's 5 notes in the pentatonic scale, and that's 5 notes out of the minor scale. You get rid of the second and you get rid of the 6th. That gives you the pentatonic scale as opposed to the minor scale. So it's not like you have to completely relearn a brand new scale. You just get rid of a couple notes from the minor scale and that gives you the pentatonic scale. Same with major. Once you've learned the major scale, you just get rid of a couple of notes from the major scale and that gives you the major pentatonic scale. So it's not like you have to completely learn all these new scales. It's just learning which notes to get rid of. Or in some instances, which notes to add. As I said, the blues scale. The blues scale is exactly the same as the minor pentatonic scale. You just add a note, which gives it a bit more flavor and a little bit more character. You add a flat 5th. Or if you want to play the major pentatonic scale, you can add a flat 3rd, which gives it more of a country sort of flavor and becomes the country scale. So all these scales, whilst there are quite a lot to learn, they're just variations of each other. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. But knowing those really well all over the fretboard does take a little bit of time and practice and patience, but it's extremely worth it when wanting to play better lead guitar and travel across the fretboard a bit more. You want to play confidently and you want to take the guesswork out of your playing. A lot of people, when they play lead guitar, they're not as comfortable with the scales as they'd like to be. They're not that comfortable with traveling about the guitar in different positions, through different boxes, all that sort of thing. Whereas if they knew the scales like the back of their hand, it would have such an impact on the overall sound and the confidence would be there and everything like that. So yeah, scales, that's an obvious one, but I wanted to get that one out of the way as well. Just know some scales really, really well. I'm not even necessarily saying you have to know all of those scales to be able to play good. Maybe just the pentatonic scale, but if you're playing the pentatonic scale, know that pentatonic scale inside out, know it really well, know how to move it between different keys and that sort of thing, and you'll be absolutely amazed at what that does for your guitar playing. Tip number 3 is diversify. What are the main reasons people get stuck in a rut and people hit a brick wall and can't get past it is you've got to think about not only the output, that's your guitar playing, but the input as well, what you're listening to and what you're jamming over. If you're playing over backing tracks or playing music with other people, jamming with people, if you're only doing the same thing over and over again, playing rock and roll, playing metal, playing blues and nothing else, that's all you're gonna do. That's all that you're gonna hear. And it's gonna be really hard to come up with some new ideas or hear some new things and add more stuff to your playing. If you're listening to the same style of music all the time, personally, I used to listen to nothing but metal music when I was growing up. Listen to and play on the guitar. It was metal, shred, all that sort of stuff. And I just hit a point after a while of doing nothing but that for a few years where my playing, it just sounded the same all the time. It was just metal playing, shred guitar, and that's basically it. So it wasn't until I started to diversify not only my playing but my listening and where I was getting inspiration from, which then had an impact on my guitar playing, and I started to learn different styles and different things here and there and pick up new ideas and techniques, which really lifted my guitar playing to a completely different level than where it had been sitting for quite a while when I was pigeonholed with just this one genre. So this is one of the main pieces of advice I give to my students when they want to get better at lead playing or just playing in general, is I try to get people out of their comfort zone, because the comfort zone, whilst it's comfy, it's a nice place to be, it's not always the best place to be, because you just get stuck. And then you almost get this little bit of anxiety about stepping out of that comfort zone to try new things in case it goes badly, in case it goes wrong. But I'm here to say that mistakes aren't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, you learn more making mistakes than you do if you don't make mistakes. So step out of that comfort zone, either with what you're listening to, with what you're jamming over, that sort of thing. And again, you'll be amazed what that does for your lead guitar playing. Tip number 4 is that licks aren't everything. I've got nothing against learning guitar licks. Guitar licks are great, but they're not everything. For me, a guitar lick is just an example of something that you can do. Notes from a scale put to good use to make a good little phrase that you can maybe use to put into your own guitar playing. But when I say use, in my opinion, I think it should be use and adapt and change and make your own. Because everybody plays differently, everybody has a different style. So if you're just playing somebody else's licks all of the time, it's not going to sound like your guitar playing. And that's the thing that you want to develop. You want to develop your guitar playing and your style. So by all means, learn some licks, but don't rely on those. Don't think, I don't know any licks in this key, or I don't know any licks in this scale. You know, you can make your own. That's another thing that I ask people to do, is jam over tracks, jam over things, just play the guitar, and in doing so, you will come up with your own licks. You will find something that you do. The amount of times I've been playing over a backing track and I've just done something accidentally and I thought, that was cool. What did I just do? And then I go back and I try and relearn it because I just accidentally stumbled across a cool lick that I've just made up for myself. And then the next time I'm jamming over a backing track, I'll remember that lick that I came up with last time and I'll add that. And then before I know it, that's worked its way into my playing and that's developed my style and added a new layer and texture to my playing. And then, you know, imagine years and years of doing that. You're gonna have so many little ideas and things that you figured out yourself, and your guitar playing is gonna sound just like your guitar playing. It's not gonna sound like you're just copying other people all of the time. So licks aren't everything. They're great, by all means learn some, but learn some, adapt them, change them, make them your own, try them in different keys, try them in different ways. And yeah, that'll be another really, really cool thing to keep in mind. Finally, tip number 5. This one is a big one in my opinion, and I think it's a little bit underestimated in its importance, so I'm going to get this one out there right now, and that is, it's not what you play, it's how you play it that makes all of the difference. It makes or breaks guitar playing, in my opinion. Think about a comedian telling a joke. For me, if something is funny, it's usually not what is said that is funny, it's the way it's said. Have you ever tried to tell somebody a joke that you heard, and when you tell it, it's not funny, but when you heard it, it's hilarious? Because you didn't say it the right way, you didn't say it the way that you heard it, therefore it just doesn't have that same impact on the person listening to the joke. That sticks with me in terms of guitar playing, so think about that when you're playing, and if you've got a lick or a phrase or some notes that you want to do, Are you playing those notes the best possible way to get the best impact to the listener? Are you making the best possible use of the techniques that you've got at your disposal? Things like, are you doing some slides in there to add some more texture, some hammer-ons and pull-offs to get some nice legato and nice flow? Are you picking every single note? Are you adding enough vibrato on your playing? If you're doing none of these things, then you should definitely be adding these things into your playing as soon as possible to just give it that more life. Two guitar players sitting next to each other could play exactly the same thing and it will sound different because both of them will play it a different way. Also, both of them will have different preferences. One might prefer to slide from one note to the next, the other might prefer to bend from one note to the next. And that will make things sound differently. So please, just in your own guitar playing, experiment with different ways of playing the same thing because, like I said, it's not what you play, it's how you play it. Something to really keep in mind. So that's my final tip, tip number 5. Hope you enjoyed this video and I really hope that you found it useful. Hopefully there's some good advice in here to get you out of the same mindset, out of the rut, or at least get you start to think about new ways that you can approach your guitar playing. Like I said earlier, I do teach one-to-one Skype guitar lessons, so if you are interested, if you do like my guitar playing, you've seen some of my videos, and you think that I might be able to help you out in some small way, then please don't hesitate to get in touch. Email me, contact me, let me know where you're at, what you're thinking, and maybe we can sort something out. That would be absolutely great. Also, I've got some courses available for people who might not want a one-to-one session, but they might want to brush up on some of their scales and things like that. So check out the link in the description as well if you want to check out some of my guitar courses. Anyway, once again, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. Subscribe to my channel if you're new, and hopefully I'll see you next time.